Hello. Welcome in. It's the PHNX Cardinals podcast, your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your programming. Become a diehard. Go PHNX.com. Pick up some merch, some free merch. How about it? Becoming a diehard, free hat and or t-shirt every single year you roll with us. Thank you to the 17 plus already rolling with us here on a football Tuesday. We're joined momentarily by Brian Baldinger, AllCity's all analyst here for the NFL. And Bo Brock, how we living today?
We're living well, my friend. It's the bye week. We're all kind of just getting our R&R, well-deserved R&R, and the team is off officially. Saw Jonathan Ledbetter. He got the nom for the Arizona Cardinals Walter Payton Man of the Year award. So high praise for Jonathan Ledbetter, one of the Cardinals' defensive lineman, but we're starting to really kind of get into this discussion about how the Cardinals were able to pull it off on the road against Pittsburgh, against the Steelers in Pittsburgh. We'll get with our guy Brian Baldinger here shortly. Excited to hear his thoughts on this, and then really start to kind of break down how we feel about Jonathan Gannon 14 games into his or 13 games into his stint as Arizona Cardinals head coach.
Let's ask the man himself, Brian Baldinger, AllCity's NFL analyst, joining us on the program after a dub. We haven't gotten to do too many of these, Baldy, where we get to break down some pretty good football by the Arizona Cardinals going into Pittsburgh, and I think really taking it to Mike Tomlin's team.
Well, goal line stand in Pittsburgh is always a good measure of how you play defensively. To have a 15-play drive at the end of the first half to score a touchdown, that's always a good measure. To get the ball with 4:25 left in the game and never give it back.
Wow.
And take a victory formation. I mean, those are good. Those are all positives about a team that, I think is, especially coming off their worst defeat the week before against the Rams, to be able to turn it around like that. That tells me something about the guys inside that room.
Baldy, when you turned on the tape and you looked at it, was it more of what the Cardinals did or what the Steelers didn't do?
Well, I mean, Trubisky fumbled that snap that kind of turned the game around and gave him good field position. They took advantage of it. I think when you can keep a team out of the end zone, I mean, that's your doing. That's not the other team's failure. You did that. You got T.J. Watt out there, Cam Hayward, Mika Fitzpatrick. I mean, you got some elite players on that field on the other side that have been doing it a long time at a high level. And, you're able to compete with that. And then to see the way they ran the ball in the second half, that's impressive. I mean, I don't care. That's in the rain, bad field, on the road, and you run the ball like they did. Froholt played great. It's just a good offensive line performance. And I'm sure James Conner was excited, to do that against, his team and the field that he played college and pro on. But I think it was more than that. I think the guys up front got the job done.
Let's talk about Kyler Murray, Baldy. We've had you on every game after Kyler Murray's performance here a month in. I think it's fair to say he's been a little bit uneven. Some ebbs and some flows to be expected, right? New formation, new offense, new personnel. Coming off major injury, I thought this was his best game. The box score I thought didn't do it justice. Big time splash throws that you want from a franchise quarterback. What was your overall assessment of K1 in this game that I really think could be a jumping off point the rest of the year?
Well, I think it's being determined right now as these games play out that Trey McBride is his guy.
Yeah.
That's his go-to guy. And, every quarterback needs that. And, it's not Hollywood Brown and it's not anybody yet, but it's Trey McBride. And I feel like, in the time that he's been back, whatever that is now, how many weeks, that's the guy that he's leaning to, that he's going to, that the plays are being called for, that's getting open, and then he's doing something with it out to the catch. So I think that's good. Look, those aren't easy conditions to play in. I mean, it looked like a monsoon out there, and that's you always are concerned about ball security, ball slipping out of your hand, all that. He didn't have any of those issues. And then he was the fastest guy on the field when he had to be. So I thought he conducted things real good and real well. And honestly, the first question you asked, is that more of Pittsburgh's undoing? I thought the Cardinals were the better team.
Yeah,
on the field. That's what it looked like to me. Take the names off the back of the jerseys in Pittsburgh. They look like a better football team to me.
Yeah, you throw the records away. You would have never guessed, which team was the 7-win team, which was
exactly.
the 2-win team.
I kind of felt like that watching it.
Yeah, and when you watch Trey McBride, especially during that 15-play, we'll call it 109-yard drive because there was a penalty in there. He seemed to kind of show off the diversity of his skill set. This has been a futile position here in the desert. Like, they haven't had any good tight ends since the Cardinals moved here to Phoenix and now Glendale and the Arizona Cardinals. And people feel a little snake bitten. They've tried to identify players in the draft at the tight end position. They've tried to bring in some bigger names. Zach Ertz played the position at a high level for a short time. But why should people be excited about Trey McBride and that he can sustain this success?
I think a couple of reasons. One, he's got, and like I always look at a player's movement. Like, he's got elite movement. Like, he's very fluid. He stays on his feet. He gets out of his breaks very easily. Like, nothing looks like it's hard to him. And then he catches the ball very naturally. Like, I wouldn't make any comparisons to Travis Kelce or anything like that. But he reminds me of Travis Kelce, the way that he moves, the way that he runs routes. Travis is, light years ahead as far as the quarterback and the whole thing, but just the way that he moves, I bet I've never seen him warm up, live. But I bet if I watched him out there just running routes, getting warmed up, that I'd see similarities. The way, like, when you watch Travis run, he's just a big guy that moves very fluidly. And I feel Trey is very similar to that.
You mentioned Yellow Frohl. I'm glad that you did. I thought the offensive line had one of its best performances given the elements and the opponent of the year on Sunday. Would you say, like, this is a run first offensive line? Like, they can do that really well. If they have to be asked to pass protect 40 to 45 times a game, that's not a recipe for success, because I think that's crazy. If you would have told us before the season, that's where this team was heading in December. But that's an offensive line to me that showed immense toughness that we typically don't get in Arizona with our offensive lines.
Well, they look like they're having a lot of fun run blocking. That's for sure. They're 20 yards downfield in a couple of those runs that broke. They only dropped back 25 times in a game.
Yeah. And
so, you really limited the amount of damage a guy like TJ Watt can do, or Alex Highsmith. They got there a couple of times, but, they didn't change the game. And so, the fact that they were able to run it so effectively, I mean, that's just, look, I know you got the bye week, but you got San Francisco coming up.
Right.
That's a complete team. And I'm not looking that far ahead, but, like, if you can run the ball with effectiveness against that group, you're onto something, and you're onto certain types of runs. And Connor could be the guy. Michael Carter came in off the street from the Jets. He had a couple runs that popped. I just think, like, that's you're trying here in the last 5 weeks to see what you can build upon going into next year. Like, what is it that we identifying players, identifying plays, identifying strengths. Like, I think that should be a part of the evaluation process right now. And they ran a gut play where they pulled Hernandez and for a hold out there, and they got him out there moving. And I haven't seen them really run that play, this year. But, they got to the perimeter, and, are they more athletic than we think? I mean, I kind of know what Will Hernandez is, and he's a guy that just lines up, and, he never missed a game at Texas El Paso. I don't think he missed a game at the Giants. I mean, he's just been a very sturdy guy. He's not the most athletic player, but to see him get out there and lead the sweep, I thought that was encouraging.
He's a nasty guy, too, and you like it. He's got a mean streak to him, Baldy. And, I thought that the Cardinals had a real, true commitment to the run, right? I mean, James Conner at half had 1.7 yards per carry. He ends up at 4.2 yards per carry over the century mark, 2 touchdowns. James Conner, when you talk about guys you want to move forward with, under contract, third of a $21 million deal next season. We thought, maybe it's a foregone conclusion that the Cardinals would move off of him as they start to kind of clean house during this rebuild. But he seems to be a guy that you hold on to. He's going to be like 7th in cap hit as far as NFL running backs going into this offseason. Don't you think he's probably locked himself in at least one more season with the Cardinals?
Well, I mean, I don't pay that close attention to the economics. I know it's a huge part, but that's not really what I focus on. So I know that's a factor in a lot of these decisions. But I mean, if I was coaching a team, I would want James Conner on my team. I mean, first of all, you just point to him. Like, he was given basically a death certificate, and he bounced back from cancer and all the things he did. I mean, he's just an inspiration. The game was taken away from him. Like, he embraces every opportunity. And just, he's just a very together person, period. Football player, not. I mean, he's just very together. You need people like that in your locker room. You gotta lead from within. And I would want him on my team in whatever role. But I mean, just looking at him in the second half, 15 carries, 88 yards, like, he can still do it. So I would, if I was a Cardinal fan, if I was a member of that team, I would want James Conner on my team.
Let's talk about the show title today is really kind of looking back while looking ahead with Jonathan Gannon. This season, I think, it's no surprise. A lot of people pick the Cardinals to finish last, first in the draft, and they've got 3 wins, which isn't anything to write home about. But I think greater than that, Baldy, like the competitiveness, the state of this roster, like, do you think that Jonathan Gannon, albeit in a small sample size this season, has done an admirable job given the expectations of this team, given he's got a quarterback coming off major injury? Like, what have you seen from Gannon specifically that could give Cardinal fans hope for 2024 and beyond?
Well, outside of that Ram game, I mean, they were competitive in every game, and they had chances in the fourth quarter, even with Josh Dobbs, plenty of chances to win some of the games. The Cowboys still, I mean, that loss to the Cowboys had to the Cardinals, that might separate them from being the number 1 seed in the NFC.
Yeah.
That might be what they look back on and go, well, they did run the ball for 220 yards against us. So it's not like they didn't, like, we gave it to them. They earned it. But I think, you're just trying to establish a culture. It's not always about wins and losses. The Colts with Peyton Manning, I'm not comparing them to the Colts, but, they won 3 games the first year, and they won 13 the next year. And they were a perennial playoff team after that. I mean, you gotta set the standard, how to practice, the culture, the expectation. I think some of that stuff can get done without necessarily winning a lot of games, and being competitive and playing hard and doing all the things that we have talked about. I think they're on the right track. Now, look, Houston got the quarterback. They turned it around right away. I think they have more marquee players than the Cardinals do right now. Everybody would love to be able to, do what Houston's doing this year in 1 year with D'Amico, but sometimes it takes 2 or even 3 years. So, but I feel like they've turned the corner as far as what Cardinal fans can expect when they go to watch them play. Like, they're going to see a team that's going to play hard. They're going to blitz. They're going to pressure the quarterback. They're going to force him into some mistakes. Like, you're seeing that. They had some good pressures the other day, really good pressures where they got after Pickett, and they got after Trubisky a couple of times on third downs, got off the field. So I think they're on the right track. I mean, I would give them a thumbs up at, after 13 weeks right now.
Baldy, people love your content, especially your breakdowns, and it helps them identify, because I guess to people like Johnny and myself, we can't look at the tape and see what you see. When you look at this Cardinals team on film, we talk about the big names, Trey McBride, James Conner, Kyler Murray. Does anybody stand out to you? Has anybody stood out to you that maybe doesn't get as much recognition from this Cardinals team, that's kind of flying under the radar but shows up on the film?
I mean, I think Gardeck is a good player. I think he was I mean, he beat Broderick Jones clean on Sunday, and he'd been just a pillar in his 4 or 5 starts at right tackle. He beat him clean. Like, he just always shows up. I think that when you look at a guy like, I'm a Budda Baker fan, a Jalen Thompson fan, so I like the way that they play. But Dante Still's got the fumble. We've talked about him, as a young player and a rookie. He's out there starting, playing. It's a loose ball. He gets it, changed the game. I know it was laying on the ground, but he got there. He kind of gets there first a lot. So he's kind of jumped off. Ojulari has some good movement. We've seen him throughout the season at times where he looks like he could be a threat off the edge. I think the experiment of Zaven Collins at outside linebacker is not a dead experiment. I think there's a place for him and a role for him in this defense.
My last question for you, Baldy, kind of pivoting again from a Jonathan Gannon perspective. There's this trendy thing in the NFL right now where you can only have an offensive head coach to succeed, right? Like Bill Belichick's struggling, Robert Saleh's got his issues in New York. These are really good football people, great football minds. You know, Jonathan Gannon, leader of men, culture setter. Like, do you believe that a defensive backgrounded head coach can still have success, maybe championship success in today's NFL game?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, look, D'Amico Ryans, was a linebacker in this league and defensive, coordinator and linebacker coach. I absolutely, because really, it's about leading men. It's about, vision and having leadership. It's great if you have something from the Shanahan tree, from the, Sean McVay tree of offensive prowess, because I think those are difficult. Mike McDaniel, like these guys have offenses that are very difficult to, but we've seen a lot of those guys from the tree that weren't necessarily, offensive gurus that have success. And so I just think it's about leadership and setting a standard and setting a vision, and you can coach, you can come from that side of the ball and be a great head coach. I just believe that can still exist, and it still does exist. I mean, it just depends on, like, if Mike McDaniel in Baltimore gets a head coaching job, he's doing a great job with the Ravens, the number one defense. He's got a college background. He's coached linebackers. Like, I think that guy would be a great head coach, just being around him and knowing how smart he is, how intelligent, how he connects with players. Like, I think he would be a good choice if somebody, reached out to him to want to hire him.
Yeah, it's really fascinating, especially when you hear Gannon talk about it. He said, if you're going to hire me to coach this team and then also to coach the defense, it's not going to work. And he kind of knew that he could maybe even thrive at a higher level from the head coaching position, even more so than, his defense last year for Philadelphia was unbelievable. And you're seeing that Philly defense struggle now, Baldy. So it seems to be the right choice for the Cardinals, who were one of the last teams to hire a coach. You got to check out the most recent episode of the AllCity NFL show. You guys broke down that Niners-Eagles beatdown that went down there in Philly. I highly recommend, if you haven't subscribed to it wherever you find podcasts, to check it out. Baldy's giving even more info there. Watch it, listen to it. Baldy, always great to catch up with you.
Okay, guys. Yep. I'll talk to you next week now. Enjoy the bye week. Okay.
Thanks, Baldy.
See you guys.
I mean, like I think this offensive revelation, whatever you want to call it, like the Cardinals tried to do that with Cliff Kingsbury. Like they said, we're going to not worry about culture. Clearly, we're not going to worry about experience. We're just going to get, for lack of a better term, the next young hotshot play caller, and it's going to fix everything. And did it mask some of their issues with Cliff Kingsbury at times? Yeah, I think a little bit, but that's not sustainable. And like, I do think this is somewhat of a fad. Like, yes, this is an offensive league now, but like, I think the under was hitting in like the first half of the season. Like it was the lowest point total that we've had with our friends in Vegas for like 8 to 10 weeks this year. So it's easy to kind of nitpick these defensive head coaches, but I mean, like not too long ago, like Ron Rivera was in the Super Bowl. Belichick was dominating. Like, if you have the quarterback, and the Cardinals believe that they do, it shouldn't matter the head coach's side of the ball, in my opinion.
Yeah, defense plays, right? And sometimes, the offense becomes a bigger talking point too, because of how the game's officiated as well. Right. I mean, where it's going to come down to, and it feels like you see, laundry on the field, and it benefits the offense more often than not. And that's also a big thing that plays into it. But, as far as trying to pick up a team from the very bottom and get it back up to relevancy, I don't think it matters, what side of the football you're coaching. You do have to start to breathe new culture, new life into that organization. And like, just because a guy is a bit innovative, and I don't know if there's anybody out there, maybe outside of Ben Johnson with the Lions, and before that, a Mike McDaniel, that's truly innovative enough to make the case to say, hey, that's the guy that should be, because of his offensive background, should be the leader of this team.
Yeah. I'm willing to wager that Jonathan Gannon's going to be here for longer than a hot minute. Speaking of wagering, let's talk about our friends at DraftKings. DraftKings, I hope you dabbled last night. A little Cincinnati Bengals underline money line. You absolutely love to see it with our friends at DraftKings. Use that bonus code, promo code PHNX right now. Bet on your favorite teams for a shot at winning big time bucks. New customers can score $150 in bonus bets instantly for betting 5 on any matchup. 5 alive for 150. You absolutely love to see that. It's called action. Get in on the action with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. I almost hit my 5-leg parlay last Saturday, but the Alabama Crimson Tide broke my heart. Didn't get paid out, but it did have some bonus bets, so makes everything all the easier. Again, new customers, 150 instantly with that $5 bet. Right now, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in New York, 877-8-HOPE-NY. Please play responsibly. In Connecticut, help is available for your gambling problem. If you have one, 888-789-7777, or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of the Boot Hill Casino and Resort, you got to be 21 years or older in most states, but age varies by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsibilities and gambling resources. Terms and conditions apply. Check them out. DraftKings.com/football. Those bonus bets, use them or you do lose them, Bo. 160 hours after they issue.
That was real professional right there by my colleague, Johnny Venerable, just rolling through that. DraftKings, of course, maybe get in some action tonight. Are you going to dabble on the Suns? Suns taking on the Lakers in the in-season tournament?
I'm going to wager the Suns are not going to lose 3 straight to old man LeBron and company, because I think this is the first time Devin Booker's played the Lakers this year.
Book is back. You got KD in the lineup, maybe Eric Gordon. I'm just regurgitating things I heard around the PHNX office from our PHNX Suns crew, making myself sound so smart. Also, what's going to make me sound smart is telling you can find the game tonight on our friends over at Arizona Family. Arizona Family 3 TV, Arizona Family Sports, channel 44. That's where you can tune into the game as the Suns take on the hated Lakers beat LA. It applies to pretty much every sport, and it applies tonight as the Suns take on LeBron and crew. Suns are heating up, right? And you don't want to miss any of the action. Get an antenna, some bunny ears. You can watch the game. That's all you need. Just turn it on your TV. 3.5, channel 44 here in the Phoenix area. Cox Cable, tune in to channel 13. If you want to find out where you can find Suns games on AZ Family, Arizona Family Sports in your area, go to azfamily.com, click Suns games for listing information in your area. Yuma, Flagstaff, Tucson, Albuquerque. You can find them, azfamily.com, click Suns games. Find out where your Suns are playing in your area on Arizona Family Sports.
So we brought it up. It's in the show title. Jonathan Gannon. We can kind of look at it from a 5,000-foot view, Bo Brock. There's a quarter of the season remaining. Cardinals have 3 wins. Again, they're not, it's not Shane Steichen and company, who, let's face it, maybe had an easier road in the AFC South. But I do think it's worth asking. Like, our initial expectations for this team, I think, were tempered, but that's putting it mildly for people outside of this community, this program. Most people thought historically bad team. Not only bad, like last year, they were bad and they had more talent. That's indisputable. Folks outside the Valley, maybe within the Valley, locally, different markets, thought the Cardinals were going to join the Detroit Lions and the Cleveland Browns as the 2 winless teams in NFL history. Like those were things that were said about the Cardinals before the year. While he has not been perfect, I think Jonathan Gannon has certainly shown you enough that you've got immense confidence that he can do this long-term in Arizona. He certainly, I feel like, has a firm grasp on his side of the football. And if he has a franchise quarterback, can win you games. Like he beat Mike Tomlin straight up with an inferior roster. That happened where the Steelers needed to win to keep pace in the postseason. It's not like the Steelers season was over by any means. So I do think if we get to the end of the season and this team has 5 wins, firmly exceeded expectations. It's hard for me right now without a win in division, because that's the barometer a lot of people use to say they've exceeded expectations, because unfortunately the division is loaded and some of their toughest watches this year have been against the NFC West. So right now I'm going to say I'm really happy with what I see. Exceeded might be a strong word. Overachieved might be a strong word. Unless, like, you beat the Bears, you beat the Seahawks, you finish with 5 wins, you're on an upward trajectory, 4-4 with K1, then it's just like, now we're ready to rock and roll.
Yeah. I'm going to put on a suit and tie. I'm going to get up on a podium. I'm going to be far too political in my answer. But look, this is how I honestly feel. I mean, as far as the results go, as far as wins and losses, you can never paint up a 3-10 record as overachieving in any capacity. But we knew going into the season it wasn't going to be graded on wins and losses. It was going to be on how Jonathan Gannon, Monti Ossenfort changed the culture, because the culture was the biggest issue with this organization last season and stretching well before last season. It's been an issue for a long time. There was a guy in that building for over 20 years that it was kind of enabled by ownership to do what he wanted, and he just drove this organization into the ground. And they needed a culture change, and they need it quickly. So as far as the culture change, as far as the direction of this organization, Jonathan Gannon in his position has overachieved as far as changing how this team is perceived.
I like that.
I mean, around this area, from Cardinals fans, what they saw from their team or what they didn't see from their team last year, they're seeing it from Jonathan Gannon and then some, because players are bought in. Like, you need a buy-in from the leaders that remained on this team. I know there was a mass exodus as far as some high price vets, but the guys that remain, from the DJ Humphries to James Conner to Kyler Murray, and Budda Baker, they said it was, and this was DJ Humphries, it's culture shock, not just a culture shift. That's what they needed. If Jonathan Gannon came in here and it was a culture shift, that's acceptable. Culture shock, I think, takes it up to the next level. And I know that you could say that, DJ, that's hyperbole, but to where it was last year, they needed it desperately, and Jonathan Gannon's providing that and then some. And it's transcending just his position. Like, the head coach of this team used to be, hey, I got to go watch film. I got to get the X's and O's correct. I got to, make sure my roster's in place. And then he was check in, check out, get to the weight room, whatever his thing was. Jonathan Gannon is all about this organization and the success of this organization, and he understands that it's beyond his roster, his coaching staff, his front office. It goes down to the people that blend up the smoothies, to the people that mop the floors, the people that sell tickets. And that's huge for this organization, because it wasn't there before.
Absolutely. Well said. He's been doing much more legwork than what you see for 3.5 hours on a Sunday. I'm not going to say this comparison is apples and oranges. People will call me a homer. That's fine. Kyle Shanahan, in his first 2 years, was 10-22. Now, that team, I thought, had a lot more talent than what the Cardinals do now. That Niner team had some good players. What happened at the end of year 2? So he wins 6-10. Then the next year, like, they're even worse, right? They traded for Jimmy Garoppolo at some point, and he started winning games with Jimmy Garoppolo. I think they were like 5-10 or 5. I'm sorry. Like, he got above average quarterback play against the Dallas Cowboys, and they beat the Dallas Cowboys pretty handily. Like, got above average quarterback play on Sunday. Guess what? Wasn't competitive. His team, should have beaten Pittsburgh by 3 scores in Pittsburgh with, inclement weather. So this franchise, I've watched them with Kyler Murray have quality Sunday after Sunday for K1. They lose games. Mismanaged, defenses look bad. So I do think, like, Gannon needs a quality quarterback. That's not breaking news. Most coaches do. I would say there's like maybe 5 to 6 guys on this planet who can go into a season and just like kind of figure it out on the fly. And unfortunately, 2 of them reside in your own division, right? But like, that's why it's so critical that that works and continues to work with Kyler Murray. Because if you have somebody like Ossenfort had, albeit with Ryan Tannehill in Tennessee, Gannon had in Minnesota with Kirk Cousins or Phillip Rivers in Indy, or of course Jalen Hurts, you're going to win games. Yeah. Championships, we'll see. But like, sustainable success is something that has been immune to this franchise. So Kyler Murray gets the quarterback piece, and he's the glue guy. Gannon's taking care of everything else. We have seen, to Bo, your point, he can be the CEO, the savant of everything and anything football related to that 53-man roster. That's got to make you feel good if you're a Cardinal fan. He is not some guy that's, immune to criticism. He's taken the blame for a lot of stuff. They have not been perfect this year, but he's also not Jim Tomsula, vomiting all over himself during press conferences.
Farting during press conferences.
Adam Gase-esque.
Yeah.
I like Robert Saleh. Like, that's what's happening with the Jets right now. That's an embarrassment. The guy's going to get fired. That's why, you don't fuck around with this situation with Kyler Murray. If Kyler Murray's healthy, you're going to win games with he and Jonathan Gannon. We've seen this team has no business winning 2 out of 4 to begin this era with Jonathan and Kyler. This roster is going to be unrecognizable. They don't have the talent, and they're beating teams in the playoff race. That tells me everything I need to know. Get the quarterback right, and they can do everything else, which is all you want.
Tomsula literally ripping a fart during a press conference, living in his car. He was the hobo head coach. That was his nickname. He lived in his damn car, and he was the successor to Jim Harbaugh, wasn't he?
Correct. Yeah, he was Jim Harbaugh's defensive line coach.
That's wild.
In his opening press conference, he's like, "Just everybody, pick up your shoes, pick up your equipment." He's like, "What are you talking about?" Because you know why? Because Jim Harbaugh's an alpha, and he went to Jed York and basically, told him to man up. This is my team, and Jed didn't like that. So
stop. You're out of here, Jim.
That's part of the reason. I think Jonathan Gannon's an alpha. We know that he's a motherfucking alpha, as is Monti Ossenfort. And we're not going to give Michael Bidwell a ton of credit on this show. He's allowing his alphas to take over his football side of things. And that's what you need. Well,
that's what we had asked for. Get your hands off the football operation, right? Get your grubby hands off of them. Go kiss babies, go politic around, go host Super Bowls.
Do what you're good at. Go do that.
Yep.
Stay away from the football.
And still, I think that there should be in play in the near future a president, a team president.
Absolutely.
I think that would go a long way. And I think that Monti Ossenfort and Jonathan Gannon should lead the charge as far as who could play that role and take this team to the next level as they rework things. But look, there are a couple things too that we don't know about Jonathan Gannon that you don't have the ability to find out at this point. At some point, he's going to have a talented roster, right? I mean, $70 million in cap space. You've got 11 draft picks as it stands right now, and you're going to have the ability to churn this roster and infuse it with some talent. And it should be some talent that should kick some ass early on. But so once that roster gets up to par, then then you can turn your attention to, okay, here are the expectations as far as Jonathan Gannon in game making those decisions. We've been encouraged from what we've seen, but what he's been assigned with this season, I think that he's overachieved with that and then some.
I saw a graphic on Twitter, and again, I swear it was from a legitimate, reputable source. It ranked all 32 teams on the likelihood that they should go for it on 4th down. You know where the Cardinals ranked? First in the NFL. Gannon is perfect when opting to go for it on 4th down. Now, they don't always convert. God knows they didn't against the Rams and Houston. But when they should be going for it and being aggressive, Gannon has been pushing all the right buttons. I don't think anybody can say, love him or hate him, he's been conservative this year. I think he's been aggressive enough with this roster to say, fake punt, fuck it, let's try it. Let's be aggressive. Let's go for the touchdown. There have been
those are in the works weeks before. The idea, I always laughed at the idea when Mike Florio, the dope that he is, tried to say that Jonathan Gannon would have taken time out of his Super Bowl preparation to prepare for his job interview. It's you're such an idiot. You're so dense. Jonathan Gannon's been preparing for this moment his entire life.
Yeah.
If he did anything outside of maybe just going on his Microsoft Word and maybe sprucing up his resume, making a tweak here and there, that's it. Jonathan Gannon has been preparing for this ever since his playing career ended and he pivoted to coaching at any level. He wanted to be an NFL coach. And
I'm going to tell you right now, that interview, that interview was more the Cardinals also courting Jonathan Gannon to take this job and to leave his situation in Philadelphia, because the Philadelphia Eagles, Jeffrey Lurie, tried to make him the highest paid defensive coordinator in the NFL, match his salary. And Gannon said, nope, I'm going to go and pursue this opportunity. He thought he was the head coach of the Houston Texans back in January. Yeah. Houston pivoted. They went with D'Amico, which has worked out. Gannon had all kind of but moved on. But then, of course, Monti Ossenfort gets the job, came calling. And it's, history is what it is. I feel like that whole situation was blown out of proportion, shockingly, by the national media. Cardinals, they got a really good candidate and what we think is a really good first-year head coach. This team had fucking no options last January. They are fortunate that Aaron Glenn or somebody like that, with all due respect, is not coaching this team. Like, what's his name? The offensive
Aaron
coordinator.
Glenn, Mike Kafka, Lou
Mike
Anarumo.
Kafka. Those are the names that they were going to have
Brian
to quote unquote
Flores.
settle with.
Right. Absolutely. And like to kind of even further the point about Jonathan Gannon, like when you talk about the graph or the numbers you saw, the rankings on Twitter of how they were right in going forward on fourth down.
Yeah.
They have daily conversations about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing that's going to happen in a game. If it happens, it's very rare that Jonathan Gannon and his staff haven't gone through those scenarios. Like he is as prepared as they come. Previous coaching staff, it was just like, oh, we're just going to trust on, our football minds. And that didn't go too far.
They leaned on the players more than they should have. They did not put the players in a position to succeed.
The players, the analytics, and like what they perceived, and it was naive. It was a bit arrogant to say.
It was like, D-Hop, what can you do for us? Can you save us, Chandler Jones? Like that's what their philosophy was.
Yeah.
They couldn't coach and develop, so they had to go out and get veteran players. And it was a house of cards. It came crumbling down last year.
So you guys are crushing in the chat. I apologize. Obviously, with Baldy, takes away from our interaction in there, but I saw a couple good things. Somebody had asked, and forgive me, I don't want to have Taz Damon go finding and weeding this out. Somebody asked, like, would we be saying these things overachieved, having this conversation if they lost to Pittsburgh?
No. I mean, that win, again, Bo's point, very well received. It's bigger than just wins and losses this year. Like that win happened. They went into Pittsburgh and played their most complete game of the year on the road in inclement weather with multiple delays with a shit roster, respectfully. Like that happened. They dominated Pittsburgh end to end. I thought they were going to get worked. I thought they'd lose by 3 touchdowns. I said it last Friday. Like we have to take that into consideration. This is the NFL. It's about results. And like the Cardinals knew this year was bigger than wins and losses. Yes. Nobody wanted to sit here in January and say, we just had a winless season, because that puts doubt in everybody's mind. Whether Michael Bidwell, Ossenfort, or Gannon would ever say it publicly, it's just like, oh man, am I 6 months from getting fired? What's going to happen to me? What's going to happen to my family? We're going to have to uproot again? No, you have to go out and perform. And for 4 quarters, they outplayed Mike Tomlin's team in his building at Heinz Field. Of course that matters.
In December. It usually doesn't happen.
For this Cardinal team. Yeah.
Right. Florio, Nitwit, Michael Evans, Phoenix Rising saying shakes fists at the heavens. Florio, you son of a... Yeah.
We'll try to get him back on the pod this offseason so we can apologize to everybody.
We'll see him out there at the Radio Row in Vegas leading up to the Super Bowl. We'll see if he even probably turn his nose up on us and say, hey, I only talk Cardinals when I can spew my own stupid propaganda.
Can I plug my book again?
Yeah, my fiction book. So look, I think when you're looking at Jonathan Gannon and what the assignment was, I think that he's certainly overachieved, and the Arizona Cardinals are in a pretty solid spot for a team at 3-10. Like, and I think he was asked this, like that somebody asked fans' reaction versus what he feels about being 3-10, that people are actually pretty excited about this team. Did he get that sense too? And, obviously he wasn't going to entertain that, because I think he understands, especially when he was in Philly, if he ever said, 3-10 or underachieving on the field, if he ever painted it up as a positive, they would have killed him. But they're who they are. I think that, this team, it is providing excitement in a weird way for horrendously underachieving as far as winning football games.
Being a part of organized sports, a football team, it's a very intimate environment, and Gannon is very protective of that environment with his players. And I think you have seen a kind of subdued response at times, like when they beat Dallas at the press conference. He's very even-keeled, dare I say, like Belichickian, but with his players on the field and in the locker room, it's different. He's sharing that emotion with them, and that's what the best coaches and leaders do. Like, I know a lot of people, I reposted a photo. The Cardinals team site did a great job capturing this photo of Gannon in the moment with Ossenfort and Bidwell behind him, celebrating the win in the Pittsburgh locker room, right? It was a fantastic photo. And a lot of people are frustrated that the press conference, the locker room engagement celebration is no longer posted. That was a stalwart of Arians, Kingsbury. They've been doing it for a while. And it's great access for us and the fans. But like, would it surprise you if Gannon and company nix that? Does it bother me? No, it doesn't bother me. That's their intimate time together. Like last year, this is a franchise that had NFL Films kind of sort of spill their dirty laundry for 3 months. It was a disaster. This is also a franchise, and I'll call out the Cardinals media relation team, that did not set up Jonathan Gannon for success by releasing some of those clips without context this offseason and kind of indirectly made him a joke, talking about you got a fire in your gut. Now, we love him for it, but every other asshole outside of this market spinning it up negatively. So I'm totally fine. Like, Jonathan Gannon has immense control and respect to that locker room. That's all you want. Everything else it's not tangible. It doesn't exist.
Well,
it's Fugazi.
Look, those people can have those opinions. Of course, they're going to have them when the Cardinals the expectations were what they were, the lack thereof expectations. And you have a guy who's coming to work into a completely new situation with enthusiasm. Enthusiasm sometimes, I think, is taken in the wrong way, unfortunately, in our society. They're like, look at this dork. He likes his job. He wants to do good things. What a piece of shit. Let's just drag him through the coals here on social media.
Yeah. It's just, you can't win. And at the end of the day, he's focused on what he needs to focus on. And we're going to talk about what we're focused on, which is Kyler Murray in the NFL draft. But here, I'm also focused on my friends, Desert Financial Credit Union, the official credit union. Yeah, of the Arizona Cardinals and the Venerable household. For more than 84 years, Desert Financial has been Arizona's largest and most trusted local credit union, dedicating to creating exceptional experiences by giving back to the community and providing financial solutions that make life better. Before the holidays, there's no better time to gift somebody maybe an investment opportunity, maybe a credit card to build some credit. How about a loan? How about a mortgage? I'd love to have a mortgage. Savings accounts, checking, whatever you want, do it with Desert Financial. They're our go-to. They're fantastic. And they've got a ton of locations in the Valley, always convenient for you to get your money. And if you're an Arizona sports fan, no better place to do your banking, because they are the #1 team of the Arizona Cardinals with respect to credit unions. Rep the Red Sea with the Arizona Cardinals Visa debit card. I have it. You should too. Show your team spirit. Open a free checking account online. Get an Arizona Cardinal Visa debit card today. DesertFinancial.com/Cardinals to get started. Trust me when I say this. It takes a matter of minutes to fill it out. Debit cards in the mail the next day. Easy peasy. Do it now.
It's great. I will say that having a mortgage isn't all it's cracked up to be, but Desert Financial makes it worth it. No doubt about it. But when you're seeing some big time numbers that you got to pay each and every month, it can make you feel a little uneasy,
Just play out for your boy.
Yeah.
Sit the mortgage out.
OG's brands will make you feel comfortable with anything. It'll take the edge off, right? It'll make every experience better. OG's, picture this. You're on your couch, your favorite team's on the screen. You just reach over, and what do you got? A special bag of goodness. Our friends over at OG's, they're gummies, they're in your hand, and it's a winning combination. Football Sunday and OG's right there in the palm of your hand with a variety of bold flavors that are going to flavor your life right there. It's a touchdown for the taste buds. That's what it is. Plus, you can customize your experience based on the desired effect and strength. They want to tailor your gummy experience to what you want out of it, right? OG's, they've got the classics like the fruits, the creams. They got the mouth-watering Pegs Raspberry Orange. How about the RSO? There's something for everyone in the OG's lineup. It's already stacked. It's not rebuilding. OG's is never rebuilding. Learn more. OG's Gummies, ogsbrands.com. Follow them on your socials as well. If you're watching us on YouTube, they've got the OG's just under Johnny here. Those are mouthwatering. ogsbrands.com.
Probably shouldn't do that with OG's. Maybe just take what's recommended on the packaging. Be super responsible. We're irresponsible when we talk about the draft picks the Arizona Cardinals have. Our friends, I think at The Athletic, put together, I'm into probability. Like, give me some numbers. Tell me what's going to happen. I'm impatient. I'm going to open my Christmas gifts early. The folks at The Athletic basically came out with an updated projection of wins given the remaining schedule, given injuries for the rest of the top, I think 8 to 10.
This is what we tried to do yesterday, right? We
Yeah.
had the top 5 and we had, what their remaining schedule looked like. But this is like nerd diving this one, right?
I'm into it because, again, it gives Cardinals more wins, but doesn't really change their draft positioning. Damon Dog, let's see it. So this is, again, from The Athletic here. Projected top 10 as of December 5th. Projected. Somehow Carolina, they're saying, is going to win at least 1, maybe 2 more games. I don't know how the fuck that happens. That team's terrible. The Patriots, 3.6. Again, who they beating? They play the Jets. Then you've got the Cardinals at 4.4. That's good living. Now, if they get to the 5 territory, they get lumped in with a lot of these teams. And we mentioned they've got the hardest strength of schedule. So one more win with this team, as much as we want to see it, potentially 2, you're going to be looking at going from 3 to 7 real quick. Now, it doesn't matter when you have your franchise quarterback, in my opinion, as much as I love Marvin Harrison Jr. But, Bo, when you look at this, anything jump out to you?
I mean, it's almost just 1 more win per team. And really what's going to kind of separate these, like you've got these decimal points and where they have everybody lined up. But
yeah,
if you look at it, like there's not much change as far as what's being projected as far as with the current draft order. Damon, do we have the current draft order? So you've got the projections. So you've got the Bears with the Panthers pick. That's 1-1.
Yeah.
You got the Patriots there and the Cardinals. So we're status quo so far. Commanders, I think they have the Bears down a little bit. We have to go back to the original graphic. I think they had the Giants up there at 5 with Tommy Cutlass not getting the job done there. Tommy Gabagool not able to name the number 1 starter.
They're not winning another game. Has anybody seen their schedule? Come on, folks at The Athletic. I thought this is a paid subscription service. I'm going to tell you right now, you don't have to pay me. The Giants aren't winning another game.
Yeah. So, look, I mean, so there's not going to be much change. And the Arizona Cardinals, if they, talk about underachieving, overachieving, if they overachieve and they sneak out, I mean, 1 more win puts them in a lot of very murky waters as far as the draft goes this upcoming spring. But look, we've said this before. Like, I think the Arizona Cardinals, especially the state of their roster, I was talking to somebody about it today. I text people too, Johnny. I know you text people all the time, but we were talking about the Cardinals and their needs, and somebody was saying, "Oh, Marvin Harrison Jr. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. That is the consolation prize to a bad season.
Yeah.
Especially when you kind of take yourself out of the quarterback range. But this Cardinals roster needs everything. And like if you get out of Marvin Harrison Jr. range, it kind of sucks, right? Because there's so much flash and pizzazz there. But you get back to eating your vegetables. You get back to building the trenches. You get some of this, you get to dip in and get the top of this very impressive tackle class. So I think that's a pretty decent consolation prize as well. And in what the goodwill of wins would make for this fan base with this new regime, I think it would go a long way.
I love Marvin Harrison Jr. as a prospect. He does not guarantee you anything. Like, you're not guaranteed that, he underachieves. God forbid he gets hurt. Like, a lot of things can happen. Maybe he's great. Maybe other parts of the team suffer and cost you games. I've seen the Cardinals have a number 1 receiver my entire adult life. It's been great. How many championships have they won? Like there's a lot of factors. This isn't a newsflash to making a championship team. 53 men make up your active roster, and more of them play just wide receiver. So I
do think that Harrison gives a jolt to the franchise. Like you've pointed this out several times, and I appreciate it. Like he puts immediately you're selling Marvin Harrison Jr. jerseys, right? Like where you're not selling
that stuff's important too.
Fashanu or Joe Alt jerseys as much as we'll get excited about having 2 franchise tackles to bookend and protect Kyler Murray on that big huge contract extension. But I mean, if the Cardinals do get in Marvin Harrison, like I don't want to discount it at all, but the point is winning continues to build goodwill. It also, this roster, to Johnny's point, not a Marvin Harrison Jr. away from contending. He certainly helps and brings electric playmaking. And I would have to bring my pants back to the pants store if that ever happened.
Well, Jesus. I'm going to tell you right now, like the way this is trending,
Yeah.
because I think they're going to beat Chicago.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to be in the mix with some of these other teams with 4 wins, but they're going to be in the Harrison Derby, I think, up until the final week when they play Seattle. And there are going to be people that say deliberately lose that game. We should be tanking for the draft pick. Kyler Murray doesn't think that way. Jonathan Gannon doesn't think that way. Yeah, they're always evaluating, but this is their livelihood. And most of these guys, the young players and Kyler especially, they're a part of your future. So again, every little thing counts. It means exponentially more to these guys to go into the offseason 4-4 with Kyler Murray than it does, 2 and 6. And you get a receiver prospect. Again, he's fantastic. I want him on this team more than anything. But this franchise is set up for sustained success, in my opinion, whether or not they get Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, you can't use that as a crutch if you're Gannon and Ossenfort, and they won't. Trust me that they're not winning games next year. Like, the expectation in 2024, this podcast, the Cardinals will tell you the same thing, is to make the playoffs next year, is to be a playoff team, is to retool the roster. Like, I'm going to tell you right now, this franchise is going to go all in on premium positions. I had that told to me again. Like, we need to double down. Certainly, they need to revamp what they do at cornerback. They need more receivers. They need an heir apparent to DJ Humphries. They need a pass rusher opposite Ojulari. They need a 5 technique. Like, that's where they're going to be living. And if it lines up with Marvin Harrison Jr., great. But if not, like, in my opinion, like, I think they're going to go out and spend big money on a number 1 corner to come in and immediately start, whether it's Jalen Johnson or somebody else. That gives you immense flexibility to take a Marvin, the kid from Fashiono, Joe Alt, or one of these second-tier edge rushers. But, I mean, at the end of the day, the team's going to be exponentially better, and we all benefit from that.
Yeah. I mean, the premium positions, if you're just getting into it, obviously, edge rusher, cornerback, tackle, quarterback. Those are the positions. And new, especially when you're talking about a player the caliber of Marvin Harrison Jr., who could command anywhere of 10 targets a game, putting the ball in his hand that many times. And you watched Jamar Chase last night do it with Jake Browning as a quarterback. Like, he's getting 10 catches on 11 targets. Like, that's a premium player, because he's premium position player now, because he's got such an impact on the game.
Michael puts it in the chat. This is their big board this offseason, whatever order this is. O-line, D-line, wide receiver, corner. If you look at this draft class, like, I think if you took a first-round corner, it would be with Houston's pick. I think Bo and I feel pretty confident about that. And outside of Marvin, barring a huge jump from a Malik Neighbors or somebody like that, which is possible, their first pick's going to be line of scrimmage based. Like, this team from Tennessee to Philadelphia with the 2 people who are in charge, like, that was the recipe for success. Like, you hit on the trenches. What won them the game on Sunday? It wasn't elite wide receiver play. You had a great game from your offensive line, and your defensive line made things uncomfortable. It didn't lead to sacks, but you did enough with your pressure group on your front 7 to make Mitch Trubisky and Kenny Pickett uncomfortable. You knocked him out of the game. That's what wins in the NFL. Sustained success is line of scrimmage play. And with the Cardinals, with Kyler Murray, I would say that's doubly important, Bo. You cannot, I don't like to knock his size, but you can't expose somebody of his size to consistent hits over the course of 17 games. He's not, Josh Allen. You have to be smart. And they know that. Paris Johnson Jr. was off everybody's radar, but this podcast, up until the night of the draft. And the Cardinals said, we like Will Anderson Jr. We need to prioritize this position. And Paris Johnson Jr. hasn't missed a snap this year.
No, he hasn't. He's he's up and coming, and I think he's been the guy that they expect him to be, and then some, as far as what he brings and provides to the locker room and stability he brings to that offensive line. So if they can find another guy, if it's Alt, if it's Fashanu, and you got a $50 million cap hit come from your quarterback, and you're paying pennies on the dollar for 2 premium positions, left tackle, right tackle, not bad moving forward. And then, like, what would you sign up for right now? Right? Would you take? I know you're an Alt guy, so I'll say Alt right early. Yeah. Say you're picking 4 or 5.
Yeah,
and then you're sitting there approaching 20, and you got Malik Neighbors, Keon Coleman staring you in the face potentially. I mean, it's not bad.
No, it's a good problem to have. I think Joe Alt's the 3rd best player in this draft. That's my opinion. I think he's right behind Marvin and Caleb. I know Dane Brugler feels the same way. And Fashion is really good too. I just think Alt is generational. My preference would be.
Do you like Coke or Dr. Pepper? I
Right.
mean, that's your just. I mean,
my preference is Marvin above everything else because of the reasons you outlined. If we're talking that next tier, I like the tackles more than the edge rushers, at least right now in this class. So I would go best available, one of the top 2 tackles. And then, like, you almost can go, as cliche as it sounds, if that pick, God forbid, is like 22, fuck me. It's like corner, D-line, wide receiver. And you just say, this guy's the best player on our board. We're going to take him.
It'll be interesting. I think it's going to be curious to see, Kool-Aid's draft process. Is he going to be available for the playoff and just where his game goes from here on out? Like, who's going to emerge as far as players in the secondary in this draft? Is going to be somebody worthy of taking in the first round? Because those are like, there was Kool-Aid, and then there was Cooper DeJean out of Iowa. He suffered a bad leg injury. That took him out for Iowa. Do you address the secondary? I mean, you've got Garrett Williams, and I'm sure they're probably going to spend some money. And there's some really intriguing cornerback free agents this year.
Great free agents
space to do it, right?
The great.
Was it Jalen Johnson from the Bears? Can you pry him away from the Bears, where he seemed like he was a bit embattled before the trade deadline this year? It'd be a nice little add to the outside corner room. So
listen, they could have a new GM and head coach. Like, there's no guarantee he goes back there.
Right. And
kind of the perfect opportunity. This draft, real quick. We know the strengths of this draft: quarterback, tackle, wide receiver. And I think edge rusher is gaining some momentum. Like 2 out of the 3, 2 out of the 4 really fit what the Cardinals need. Like, this franchise, if you guys have been following it for a hot minute, has never had elite offensive line play, and it's held them back. What better way, as Bo said, than to prop up your $52 million franchise quarterback? I love Greg Dortch. Kyler Murray can make Greg Dortch really good. Now, I think Greg is really good, but Greg was their number 1 receiver Sunday. That's what Kyler Murray can do with protection. He can take somebody and elevate them from a B to an A. And I think receiver is important, but it's not. I think offensive line play is just as important, if not more so.
Some great questions in here. Let's see. Albert asking, how am I feeling about my boy Brock Bowers? Johnny always painted that picture incorrectly with me and Brock Bowers. I really like Brock Bowers as a prospect. I think he's the best tight end in this draft. I think he's even top 5 talent worthy. But where the Arizona Cardinals are, I don't think, especially with the emergence of my boy Trey McBride. I got the DMVR Rams homegrown Trey McBride T-shirt on today. Johnny's really jelly about it. But yeah, I think that the Cardinals should pass on Brock Bowers. I've maintained that.
I will make a prediction right now. Brock Bowers will never be as good as Trey McBride in the NFL. Mike Kafka, $5 super chat. No, JG's Cardinals did not overachieve. Most people pick the Cardinals to win somewhere between 2 and 4 wins. That's fair. Over-under in Vegas was like 3.5, 4. But again, it's the optics of like how competitive these games have been. One of the reasons we felt physically ill after the Rams game, it was like the first time outside of Cleveland where it was just like, oh, we got to turn that off. That was a rough watch. Dirt Bike Boys, 714-499. Say we pick 6th, which is a possibility, and Joe is off the board. I like going with Rome Odunze. That might be a little rich for me. Now, he's averaging like 2 first downs every reception. He's at like 18.7 yards per catch, and he's dominated, and he could dominate the college football playoff. I've seen Malik Neighbors be the consensus wide receiver 2 right now. But again, like if there's a receiver that blows up the combine, they love him in the film room. Paris Johnson Jr. to a lot of people was, he went about where people thought, but a lot of people thought the Cardinals reached on that pick. They don't care what people think. If they love Rome and he's worthy of a top 10 pick, they'll use him. They'll do it.
Yeah, you can make the case for him. Certainly can. I watched a lot of Rome play this season, catching passes, really propping up Michael Penix Jr. there for the Washington Huskies, and a big reason why they're playing in the Final Four for the college football season. So you guys, all the draft chat, we can go forever with this.
It's great.
But
let's talk about Kyler here in a second.
Yeah. Okay.
Kyler had a really nice post on social media. Once upon a time, he scrubbed his social media with the Pride regime. It's great to see the flip of the script there. It's also great to see really affordable tickets to some of your favorite events, whether it's in the Valley or wherever you live, via our friends at Game Time. It is the only ticketing app that the Venerable family uses, period, point blank. And we're going to help you save money, $20 off your first purchase with the Game Time app, PHNX. Listen, it's cooling down here in Arizona, which means it's festival time, concert time, outdoor concerts. You into that? We are. Go to Game Time. They're going to hook you up. We've got Coyotes tickets available, Suns tickets available, spring training available. I go to everything with Game Time. Plus, we've got a couple more Cardinal home games to check out. So again, download the Game Time app today. Create an account just for you. Use that code PHNX, $20 off your first purchase. They have everything. If you want to test me, go ahead. They've got parking passes. The egregious fees of some of these other ticketing sites, it's deplorable. Game Time doesn't mess with that. Plus, they'll notify you. Prices are dropping. Hey, here's a flash deal, right? You know, like when you book hotels and it's like, this is a flash. Game Time does stuff like that. It's great. It's not cut and dry. It's on your schedule, and they reward the procrastinators. Check out same-day concerts, same-day events. You're going to save money. Download the Game Time app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
That was unreal. I don't know if the DraftKings read was better or that was better. You're in the zone today as far as your.
Oh man,
your
I'm
reads
doing
go.
my
You
best.
are
My Tommy,
professional.
what's his name? Our Gabagool boy. I feel
Tommy
he got the
DeVito.
starting job. He's
Yeah.
playing over Tyrod. I feel invigorated.
Feels like he's hit the lottery. Like he was a scratcher that just hit for $500K. You can hit on that as well. It's actually the perfect gift to get somebody else, right? But why not include yourself? It's just $1. You just go get some of these Arizona Lottery, AZ Lottery scratchers. Follow them on your socials as well. AZ Lottery, they're fun. Holiday scratchers from Arizona Lottery make last-minute shopping easy, right? And they make the perfect gift. There's a scratcher for everyone on your list. I did the crossword puzzle one recently, cashed in $3. Big winner over here. But look, it was just kind of scratching that itch a little bit, right? I didn't get any action on the BetMGM app, so I had to turn to my scratcher, and I found it right there. Just $1. You can win top out prizes of $500K, somewhere around $20K. $500,000 is your top prize for a ticket that costs you just about $1. Go and buy your holiday scratcher today from the Arizona Lottery.
So once upon a time, Mel Kiper was critical of Kyler Murray, not of him going first overall, but kind of believed unconventional, wasn't his cup of tea. And that Mel's a little bit old school. He likes Jimmy Clausen's of the world coming out of Notre Dame. Well, he was asked for ESPN.
He uses Moose still? Who uses Moose?
He's great. I love Kiper. I'm never going to hate on Mel Kiper for his preference, but
right.
You know, he may have had a Kyler stigma in the past. And so he's asked, like, Cardinals could be in a position to take a quarterback. What should they do? And I would think, oh, he's going to say, take Drake May out of the ACC. He's 6'4", rocket arm. That's not what he said. This was via ESPN chat with Mel Kiper Jr. Should the Cardinals have 2 first-rounders? Should they take a quarterback and trade Kyler Murray? He's unequivocally saying, no, they should not. They should commit to Murray and keep building around him. He's still a really good and young 26 quarterback, and he's a growing player. He's growing as a player, coming back from the ACL, playing well. Emphasis on well. I understand that many franchises want to reset the clock on quarterback decisions, but Arizona is invested in Murray, and he does mention the contract would be tough to move. He goes, if I was running the Cardinals, I'd take Marvin Harrison. I'd give Murray a true number 1 receiver, and if they land the number 2 pick, figure out a deal with New England at 3, trade back, and get Marvin Harrison Jr. Just look at the Bears trade involving Mitch Trubisky once upon a time with the division rival Niners. So I saw that today. I'm like, God damn, Mel Kiper, speaking the truth, man. Great points.
Our Johnny's buddy, Frank Caliendo. Remember Frank Caliendo said he sees your tweets all the time? Did a great Mel Kiper Jr.
We're very close.
Todd.
I asked him to do it too.
But that's some of the best work from Mel Kiper Jr. He's preaching to the choir here on this podcast, no doubt about it. I mean, we've done a couple of the PFF mock draft simulators where we've tried to pull off a deal with the New England Patriots. That is the best of all realities. If the Arizona Cardinals, if they get in a prime position to be in place in front of a quarterback hungry team and can slide back one spot and get their guy, or especially Marvin Harrison Jr., sign me up. And then especially what he's saying about Kyler Murray. Absolutely. I mean, it's something that this podcast has been telling you for a long time, that the Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray comes back and proves to them that he's the guy, and pretty much solidifies what this team and what this podcast believed Kyler Murray to be, then he's somebody to move forward with. And that's encouraging to see. And I think that the national media is coming around because they're seeing Kyler Murray play within a rock solid infrastructure. And it's just in the very infancy stages of him playing in this offense and already seeing positive results.
I think we all are guilty of it to some degree, where we take prospects at quarterback and we prop them up, and then you fast forward and a lot of these guys just can't play or they underperform. Look back at the 2021 quarterback draft. Trevor Lawrence goes down now. Like, that class is a disaster. It's an unmitigated heap of garbage with the Mac Jones and Trey Lance and Zach Wilson. Like, no one knows. Like, CJ Stroud was the most nitpicked quarterback of the last, I think, like 5 to 6 years. They were making fun of his IQ and his Wonderlic score, and he's unbelievable. He's the best rookie quarterback in NFL history. CJ Stroud suddenly can't play. Anthony Richardson's hurt. No one knows. So when you have a commodity that's known, that can win you games, that can elevate you to a top 10 team like Kyler Murray has and can still do, in my opinion, well, you're not going to punt on that. Again, I use this example all the time because I think it's relevant. Ossenfort was in Tennessee for a couple of years when they had Ryan Tannehill, who is not a 10th talented as Kyler Murray. And they were the number 1 fucking seed in the AFC. They won a ton of games with Ryan Tannehill on the back 9 of his NFL career, because they built around him. They knew how to develop. Now, they made a stupid decision with, a certain wide receiver in A.J. Brown, and it cost, his boss his job in Tennessee. But hopefully he learned from that kind of thing. I just feel like at the end of the day, like, we always were looking at projections and rookies contracts, and Caleb's, I feel like, still in a class of his own. And that's a very tough, unique conversation. Everybody else, I mean, I like Jaden Daniels. I watched him here in that last bowl game for ASU. I'm like, this is a wide receiver playing quarterback. Now, he's been coached up. He's got great talent at LSU. But, like, you're telling me you would rather have Jaden Daniels or Bo Nix or Drake May over Kyler Murray? Kyler Murray making big-time throws against Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh? What are we even talking about?
Yeah, it just was tagged on Twitter by Deuce out there. Big thanks to Deuce, young _ prodigy. I think he tagged you in as well. I don't know if you saw it. It's a chart where quarterbacks in 2023 create rate and their sack rate on perfectly covered plays. And this was created by Throw the Damn Ball on Twitter. It creates lots of great graphs out there. It says, when the play is perfectly covered, how often do quarterbacks either, 1, run for positive EPA, expected play, and then you got engineer a throw into an open window, and he started to kind of look at it. And Kyler Murray is in company of Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen.
Is that good?
It's pretty damn good. I mean, obviously it's a sample size. It's obviously 4 games into it, but well ahead of Joshua Dobbs, well ahead of guys like Brock Purdy, well ahead of CJ Stroud, who gets a ton of flowers these days, Jalen Hurts. Kyler Murray, the sack rate's probably a little bit higher than you want. And I think that he would probably say that he could have gotten rid of the football. Or
I think that's comfort level with the offense too.
Sure. But already seeing, some the next level analytics that Kyler Murray's already producing some pretty impressive results.
And I think it goes back to our previous conversation where, like, the only issue that Kyler Murray has had, in my opinion, in the NFL is, can he stay healthy for 17 weeks?
Yeah.
And you've compromised that, I think, with the play calling under Cliff Kingsbury and the personnel, 100-year-old Rodney Hudson and some middling interior offensive line play. Like, it just gives you more confidence. Like, you get a quality offensive line. Like, look what the Lions are doing with Jared Goff. Like, there's no secret. Like, you give Jared Goff protection, and he's a top 10 quarterback. He was the first overall pick.
Yeah.
You give Kyler Murray better protection up front, wide receivers be damned, he will have almost a perfect game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, I am so much more encouraged after Sunday with Kyler Murray because you see the splash play. You see the mobility. I think this team knows it. They know what they have. They're evaluating everybody. You take Drake May and you punt on Kyler Murray, you might be out of football completely in 3 years. You might be relegated to the college level. Drake May becomes becomes a bust and Kyler Murray has success elsewhere, good luck.
And when Kyler Murray's been bad this year, right? When he hasn't been making plays, and we'll take the Rams game, right? And early in the Pittsburgh game.
Yeah.
Jonathan Gannon said this yesterday, that Murray kind of self-scouted himself and said, well, my feet are moving around too much. My feet aren't coordinating with the rest of my throwing motion. And that's making things be off a little bit, and was able to settle himself down. And then he got into a pretty damn good groove. And you could see that if you look at the Rams tape too. I mean, he was just off, and he's getting more and more comfortable. Kyler even said, you can see it on our Instagram account at PHNX_Cardinals, where he's saying game's starting to slow down for him now, into it. And we'll see what, 1 week off, hopefully the 1 week off benefits him more from the physical standpoint and the health standpoint, and he can get back out there and the games continue to be slowed down for him in this offense. But it's really, really encouraging. So is the post that he had today, Johnny.
Yeah, he's got this on Instagram. A couple other photos preceded this, but this is Kyler Murray saying for JC, James Conner, Buddy Morris, and the two that know from around the way. And I'm guessing one of those two is his GM Monti Ossenfort. How about that? First of all, this picture is great. It was from after, I think, the Dallas win. And you see Murray in the background, even before his return, chomping at the bit to come back for this franchise. Like, this is all he's ever wanted, guys. He wants just adults in the room, people who know football that can match his level of intensity. Like, everybody here in the chat has worked with bad people in your professional work environment, maybe your personal life, where you're just like, this is not a serious person. And I nobody's matching my level of greatness, my intensity. I'm not getting better here. That was Kyler Murray. He had been tapped out. He had topped out where he could go with Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury. And now he gets to be challenged openly and honestly with a guy that's won in the NFL as a defensive coordinator at the highest level, with some really quality coordinators that were coveted by NFL teams, something that Kingsbury never had, and a general manager that has gone all in supporting him both on and off the field. The statue unveiling, like we should have known, and we did at the time.
Yeah,
like that was the beginning of it. Like, you don't go to that if you're not committed to K1, and that meant the world to him. He was not speaking with Cliff Kingsbury last year. They used the quarterback coach as a buffer. Like, to me, it's just at the end of the day, he has 5 touchdowns in 4 games, relatively modest, off an ACL tear. So on pace, that's about 20 touchdowns. Yeah. You're averaging about 20 touchdowns over a 17-game season. Conservative, and say if you project him to have a marginal jump in talent, personnel, feel comfort level in this offense, if he plays all 17 games next year, he's going to have over 30 total touchdowns. Like, that's what you want in the NFL. That's a franchise quarterback. Like, and we kind of just laugh at these other situations around the NFL because they can't get it right, whether it's Atlanta or the Jets or whomever. The Cardinals have the solution. It's here. It's internally. It's Kyler Murray.
It's K1, and they're finally showing him some appreciation within the organization, outside of the organization. You love to see it. We love to see you all in the chat. Jessica saying K1 finally happy and shining. Love to see that. Dee Dee saying Baby Yoda's legit. Emily, K1 looks happy. Absolutely. And that shouldn't be like a big surprise, but it is, considering where they came from. Like, I heard somebody talking today about what's one of the organizations that's fallen apart. But basically saying, like, things are starting to leak out about this organization, and you're starting. It's the Jets, right? It was the Jets.
It was the Jets.
They were talking about how Zach Wilson maybe was apprehensive about going back in there.
Hilarious.
And they were basically just saying, like, this is what happens when things go south, right? When things go poorly. But the Cardinals were coming when things started to go south, where after an 11-win season, like, the things leaks started to come out from the top of this organization when they just came off a playoff appearance and an 11-win season. And that's truly telling about the former regime, and is a huge indictment on them on how they operated, that they just had one of the most successful seasons that they had. It was the most successful season outside of the Bruce Arians era, and they completely lit fire to it.
Yeah, it's a not serious franchise at the time, and they are back to being, even in a 3-win season right now, a serious franchise. The Jets, man, it's just what can you even say about Zach Wilson and company. That was the Cardinals. That was the life we were living this time last year. It was tough. You know what's not tough? Making a decision, becoming a diehard at gophnx.com. Pick up a free hat and or shirt every year. You're a diehard. Join us in the exclusive PHNX Cardinals member Discord. Your boy making the playoffs, maybe in the Discord league. You love to see that. I will give the flowers to the number one seed in both our fantasy football leagues for PHNX, Mr. Bo Brock. He pushed all the right buttons. He ignored his family for 3 months to make sure that this was secured. Congratulations, Bo, on your number one seed. Don't blow it.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you so much. It means the world to me after I endured so much. If you just trying to get back and out of the waffle watch, that now that burden falls on the shoulders of our own GM, Saul Bookman, who's got to play Jesse Friedman from PHNX D-backs for a chance to avoid going to Waffle House for 24 straight hours. But, who cares about the person that's winning the league first in points, first in record? That's me. But also, talk about becoming a diehard. We're incentivizing this. This is great. If you go right now, you download the BetMGM Sportsbook app, Johnny, and you put in the promo code PHNX, place a $10 bet, they're going to send you a gift card to the PHNX locker.
What?
You're going to get a deal to go to the PHNX locker and get a gift card for it just by signing up at the BetMGM Sportsbook right now and using the promo code PHNX. So don't miss on that. You can get great gear. You have to go to DNVR to get this great shirt, the homegrown Trey McBride shirt. I don't even know if it's still around, but you can get, of course, Johnny's hat that he's got on right now, the PHNX flag. You got the Coyotes one just over my shoulder. Check out the PHNX locker right now for all your Valley sports fandom that you can handle. PHNXlocker.com. Become a diehard today. Get full access to the whole website and, of course, our member Discord.
Like this video. Let's get this little Tuesday over 200 likes here on YouTube. We are so close. So flipping close. PHNX_Cardinals on Twitter to 10,000 followers. Help us get us there, please, please, please. Pretty please. We're back mañana on a Wednesday, and we're going to be taking a 5,000-foot view, Bo, as it relates to this team. Big picture questions, roster implications, who's staying, who's going for the Cardinals, and who's under the most pressure in the final 4 games to perform. Hollywood Brown and company. Can't wait to discuss it, my friend.
We'll see everybody on Wednesday. Have a great rest of your Tuesday.
We all silly like the mayor.